Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Larry's Trackside Teaser, my NASCAR preview show. And I am Trackside Larry. Whether you're listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. I apologize. I am, I think, one day late with this right now. Some of you may know I was in Phoenix Raceway, so I kind of had to shift some things around this week. And I was thinking about doing this on Monday night, and I was just dead tired. So now it's really late on Tuesday. You're probably seeing this on Wednesday or Thursday, maybe, is when you're possibly seeing or listening to this. So I do apologize. I am late on that, and there's a possibility I may be late on that as well next week because I am going to Las Vegas Motor Speedway this upcoming weekend. But let's preview this upcoming weekend of Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I'm a big fan of Las Vegas Motor Speedway personally. I think it puts on pretty good racing. I wouldn't say it's the best racing in NASCAR, but it does put on some pretty good racing, and we've seen some good races over the last a couple years. I'm a huge fan of the facility. For anybody that hasn't been there, it's a full-fledged motorsports facility. And what do I mean by that? There is, of course, the big tri-oval, D-oval racetrack of Las Vegas Motor Speedway, mile-and-a-half racetrack. Then you also have the dirt track, the Las Vegas Motor Speedway dirt track. You have the NHRA drag strips, and it's also a four-way drag strip as well. You have the short track, the Las Vegas Bull Ring, and it's kind of in the parking lot a little bit. It's not necessarily a traditional road course, but there is technically a road course on the facility as well. So very, very cool racetrack when you look at it from that aspect. I think it has probably the best infield. No, I'm not talking about camping. The camping is more family friendly, but when I'm talking about the infield, I'm talking about the garage for fan access. I think it's probably the best in NASCAR. I have never been to Talladega. I've heard Talladega's is pretty good, and it looks like it's a pretty good time. But even not being there, I would still say Las Vegas because you could actually watch the whole race from the infield because they have platforms and stuff for you to watch the race on, and you can see the whole racetrack, which is very cool. So I'm a big fan of that. And just the way the racetrack is, I think it's a really great racetrack. So anybody that's in the area probably should head to Las Vegas Motor Speedway this weekend because we do have a bunch of dirt racing with High Limit, Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet's sprint car dirt racing series is at the Las Vegas dirt track this weekend for a couple of races. So that's pretty cool. No trucks this year, which my opinion sucks. No truck series going to Vegas. That kind of sucks. It is what it is, though. And then, of course, we have the O'Reilly Series and the NASCAR Cup Series there this weekend. So let's get to the weekend schedule for Las Vegas Motor Speedway. All right, I did almost forget. Let's go through this week's power rankings, the updated power rankings after Phoenix Raceway for the NASCAR Cup Series and the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. First, we'll take a look at the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, and obviously no truck racing this weekend, so it's the same power rankings as last week. And in the O'Reilly Series, we have Jesse Love up top. Great finishes over the last couple of races for Jesse Love. He's finished in the top 5 for the last 3 races, including a dominating performance in Phoenix, but was unable to come home with the victory. And he's averaging a 3.66 average finish over the last 3 races. Second in my power rankings for the O'Reilly Series, I have Sheldon Creed, the winner at Hotlanta, with 1 win and a 5.33 average finish. In third place, we have this week's past winner, Justin Allgaier, with 1 win and a 14 flat average finish over the last 3 races. And then Corey Day, who has been getting himself into trouble at Atlanta and at COTA, but he's finished in the top 10 the last 3 races, 2 of those being top 5s. He has an average finish of 6 flat. And then Austin Hill goes from first to 5th in the power rankings. And early on in the season, I think these power rankings are going to be shifting back and forth pretty quickly early on in the season until we get some more races under our belts. But that is the top 5 in the O'Reilly Series power rankings this week. And then the top 5 in the Cup Series power rankings shouldn't be any surprise. As the top 2, you got Tyler Reddick with 2 wins over the last 3 races and a 3.33 average finish over the last 3 races in first. You have Ryan Blaney with, of course, his win at Phoenix and a 6.33 average finish. And then Bubba Wallace has finished in the top 10 in every race this season, and then got an 11th place at Circuit of the Americas, got 6th at Phoenix. He is 3rd in the power rankings with an 8.33 average finish. Christopher Bell has looked very strong over the last 2 weeks, especially finishing in the top 5 the last 2 weeks at an 8.66 average finish over the last 3 races. And then Denny Hamlin squeezes into the top 5 with a 9.33 average finish over the last 3 races, including a top 10 at Circuit of the Americas, which road courses aren't necessarily his strong suit. So now let's actually move on to the weekend schedule and the weekend facts for Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It is going to be a very busy Saturday for O'Reilly and the Cup Series, as at noon Eastern, we have the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series practice on the CW app, immediately followed by qualifying also on the CW app. And then at 2:30, not too long after O'Reilly Auto Parts Series qualifying finishes up at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we will have Cup Series practice on Prime, immediately followed by qualifying. And then roughly an hour after Cup Series qualifying finishes up at 5:30 p.m., you will have the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race, the Luana. I'm probably butchering the sponsor. And there's no number. It's just the Luana. Okay, got that. And then, of course, on Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern, the Cup Series will have the Pennzoil 400. And should be probably a good race. I would also like to note that there is 4 races on here for the High Limit Racing, Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet Sprint Car Racing Series. Racing at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway Dirt Track, the Sugar Bee Blackjack Bash. You'll have 3 days of racing at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway Dirt Track on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, starting at 7 p.m. each night. And of course, all of these races will be on Flow Racing. All right, now that we're done with that, let's get to the NASCAR facts. So the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, of course, located in Las Vegas, Nevada. The stages end on lap 80, 165, and it's a 267 lap event, the Pennzoil 400. The first time that this series actually raced here was back in 1998. In March. It was actually won by Mark Martin, March 1st, 1998, our first winner of Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And then our active win leader is Joey Logano with 4 wins at the racetrack, tied with all-time win leader Jimmy Johnson. And then, of course, last year, 2 very cool moments for our 2 winners there last year. You had Josh Berry in the spring, and then Denny Hamlin in the fall. All right, we have some pretty cool notable entries this weekend. Of course, the Truck Series is off. They'll be back next weekend for Darlington. But for the O'Reilly Series, the notable entries we end up having we have Cole Custer racing for Greenlight, SS Greenlight Racing, pretty much a Haas factory team car right there in the number 0. Connor Zilic racing once again in the number 1 this weekend, which will have Carson Quaffle end up moving over to the number 9. Carson Quaffle will actually move over to the number 9, so staying within the same race team. Once again, Chandler Smith is getting a start in the number 5. You have Chase Briscoe racing this weekend in the number 19 for Joe Gibbs Racing. Brent Cruz still needs to wait a little bit longer So before he can go full-time racing. And then Kyle Larson driving the number 88 this weekend. And now we'll take a look at the notable entries or notable entry for the NASCAR Cup Series, as it looks like it's going to be Justin Allgaier racing the number 48. Alex Bowman will be out for another week. The rumors are rumors I've been seeing that he could potentially be out till April. I don't know how true or untrue those rumors may be, but that's just kind of what I've been seeing at the moment. But this weekend, Justin Allgaier, Lil Gator, will get a great opportunity driving the number 48 for Hendrick Motorsports. And the weather is pretty much looking the same all weekend long. On Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, looks like 0% chance of rain, mid 80s to low 80s around race time. The highs at 89, 89, and 87 for those 3 days. And then the lows roughly around 60 degrees. So it seems like the whole weekend is going to be the exact same pretty much. And Thursday also looks very similar to this as well, because there is the high limit race on Thursday as well. All right, let me give my thoughts on the racing of Las Vegas Motor Speedway and what I think it could be this weekend for the NASCAR Cup Series in particular. I talked a little bit about it earlier, but I do want to talk a little bit more about it. Las Vegas Motor Speedway, I think for the most part, puts on some great racing. We see comers and goers. We see multi-groove racing. I don't think 1 and 2 necessarily. 1 and 2 not necessarily as well as 3 and 4. I think 3 and 4 is more multi-groove than 1 and 2. I think 1 and 2, most drivers tend to pick the very bottom or maybe a lane or two above the bottom, and up against the wall doesn't really work usually. Over in 1 and 2, I've seen drivers do it and make it work, but I think that's not as often as we see the bottom or the middle lane end up working over there. I do expect some long green flag runs. These races tend to not have too many incidents unless cautions breed cautions. Then we could maybe see some. If we get a caution with like 20, 30 laps to go, we might see 4 or 5 of them because of the racing in turns 1 and 2 that I had just mentioned. There's going to be somebody that tries to make it 3 wide on one of these restarts potentially and cause an accident. Pit road, something about this pit road, I always see a lot of speeding penalties on this pit road. I'm not sure why. I'm used to seeing a lot of speeding penalties at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I don't know if there's any facts behind that, but for some reason I just remember seeing a lot of speeding penalties at this racetrack. I do expect some strategy to be done out there to a certain degree with pit road. I expect the stronger teams to be the strongest, like your Hendrick, like Penske, like Joe Gibbs Racing, and you can maybe even throw 2311 in there. Like those teams are going to be very strong this weekend, I would say, which kind of leads me right into the favorites on who I think the favorites are this weekend. I think you have to mention Joey Logano. Joey Logano is always really good at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, along with his teammate Ryan Blaney. I think has some decent speed here. Christopher Bell has really strutted his stuff here a couple of times. Denny Hamlin has looked pretty good here as well. Las Vegas is a very interesting racetrack because no one really ever dominates it. It's not somebody's playground, you know. I feel like most drivers have that one track where it's kind of their playground. And I don't think any driver has ever made Las Vegas Motor Speedway really their playground. Jimmy Johnson got 4 wins here, and everybody else got 3 or less wins here in the years that it was here, which is a pretty big surprise. Not a lot of multiple-time winners at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, so I would not be super surprised to see a first-time winner or an underdog to a certain degree. We saw it with Josh Berry last season, getting the win in the spring. But I would have to look at the Penske guys. I would have to look at Barry again as a potential big underdog there. I would have to take a look at Joe Gibbs Racing as a whole. I think one of those drivers can definitely get to victory lane, and Hendrick Motorsports. I think you'd have to look at that team as a whole to win, except for maybe Allgaier. I don't think Allgaier will necessarily be competing for a win, but maybe a top 10 or something like that. But I don't see a win in his future, I would say. And this is, like I said before, this is one of those tracks where I think we're going to probably see a winner from one of those four race teams. It's either going to be Joe Gibbs Racing, 2311, Hendrick Motorsports, or Penske. I would be very surprised to not see one of those teams win. I think the next team up would probably be Trackhouse. Maybe a Ross Chastain could be pretty competitive. Shane's been doing well the last couple weeks. Maybe even Spire. Carson Hocevar is maybe a guy to watch out for this weekend, I would say, as well. But yeah, those would be, I think those would be the favorites and a couple underdogs as well for the Cup Series at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Let's move on to my picks for the weekend. Who do I think is going to win the O'Reilly race, and who do I think is going to win the Cup Series race? In the O'Reilly Series, I'm going to take Connor Zilisch. I think Connor Zilisch is going to win the O'Reilly Series race, then the Cup Series race. I think it's going to be Chase Briscoe. I think Chase Briscoe is going to turn it around this weekend. He's had a very strong car in the first couple of weeks of the season, just hasn't had any luck. I think at Phoenix, he had probably a top 5 car, top 10 car for sure, maybe top 5. Coda, I think he potentially could have competed for the win. Atlanta and at Daytona, I think he could have competed for the win. So a very tough start of the season for Briscoe, and I look at Vegas as a pretty strong track for Joe Gibbs Racing. So my Cup Series pick will be Chase Briscoe this weekend. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Who is your pick to win at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and are you looking forward to this weekend's Pennzoil 400? All right, that'll do it for this week's edition of Larry's Trackside Teaser, my NASCAR preview for Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So everybody enjoy Las Vegas Motor Speedway this weekend, whether you're there in person. If you're there in person, maybe try to go to one of the high limit races as well. That's your best chance to meet Kyle Larson. He's going to hang out and sign fans' autographs. He usually does at these events. He's a lot more active. So if you are a big Kyle Larson fan, I would highly recommend going to the high limit race and then going into the pits after the race and waiting probably for a while, but maybe having a moment with your favorite driver, Kyle Larson. You got Casey Kane out there, Brad Sweet. You have some very interesting figures out there. You got Rico Abreu out there as well. You have a lot of big star dirt drivers out there this weekend, so I would take a look at that. And then, of course, all the racing that we have this weekend. And then next week, I will be previewing Darlington Throwback Weekend next week. And then also keep an eye out for my Car on the Hauler, my post-race show for Las Vegas Motor Speedway early on next week. And also look up my Car on the Hauler for Phoenix from this past weekend. But let me know your thoughts about anything we talked about in the comments. But for now, I'm Trackside Larry saying peace.